Madam Chair, we are now live.
Good evening and welcome to the Town of Ajax Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting for Wednesday, May 19th, 2021. This meeting is being held electronically and live streamed on the internet. All staff and committee members are participating by phone or video. All regular practices and procedures of the committee continue to apply during this electronic meeting. If we encounter any technical difficulties, we may take a brief recess while they are resolved. Thank you for your patience. We will now proceed with the meeting. Are there any conflicts of interest from committee members with any items to be discussed this evening? Seeing none, thank you. And if we can now look for the adoption of the minutes from the previous meeting dated April 21st, 2021. Can I have a motion to adopt the minutes?
I'll put the motion forward to adopt the minutes. Ray Smith.
Thank you, Ray. And seconded by?
Seppeline Deonarine.
Seconded by Seppeline Deonarine. And all those in favor, you can say aye or shake hand.
Aye. Aye.
And that is carried. On the next agenda item, item number 4, presentations and discussion items. We have 4.1 National Accessibility Week 2021, and Sarah will lead us in that discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is a pretty brief update. You are aware that we've been planning our National Accessibility Week initiative. Sorry, I'm trying to juggle multiple screens here. And I just wanted to provide an update to everyone on where everything stands. So let's see. Hopefully, by the time this shows up on your screens, you should see something that has the Town of Ajax logo at the top of the page and National Accessibility Week 2021. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so we're in the right spot here. So the committee has discussed several different initiatives that it is interested in facilitating for the week's recognition, which is amazing considering that we're still in a pandemic and we're prohibited from meeting in person. So we've got a lot of great virtual initiatives planned. And Julia was representing the committee at the council meeting that happened on Monday evening, just to create some additional promotion for that. And Ray and I also participated in a brief presentation to the Age-Friendly Ajax Committee last week to help spread the word. But now we're really getting our information out there publicly. We're polishing off the IMO webpage right now. There'll be some social media messaging that goes out during National Access Week, as well as the flyer that our communications team is designing. So I just wanted to take some time tonight to show you guys where we're at and where all the information is going to be housed so that we can share out links once everything is finalized and ready to go. So we're still kind of in draft mode here. We're looking to update the image. We're kind of refreshing our guide dog awareness page, if you will. So the imagery will be refreshed to reflect National Accessibility Week. But essentially, we've got a brief synopsis about what National Accessibility Week is, when it's taking place, and then the 8 different ways that you can take part in some sort of recognition throughout the week. And we've listed those with interactive links where possible. We have a lot of this information cross-promoted through the Ajax Public Library events calendar, the Town of Ajax events calendar, and again, I'll also be looking to add that to the Durham Region News events calendars for public information as well. So we're kicking off the week, as you're aware, with the Exploring the Trails Ajax virtual event that the library is hosting. And I believe it's Heather, Catherine, and Julia that are going to be taking part in that talk, where our active transportation coordinator will be speaking to the large expanse of trail system and networking that we have here within the municipality. And then we'll be able to share some of your personal experiences about accessing the trail and different accessibility features. Next in the week, we have Wear Red for Easter Seals, Red Shirt Day. That's happening on the Wednesday. And that's when everybody's encouraged to wear red. You can use social media to post images, or if you wanted to email me images in advance, I can look to have those added. I do still have all of your imagery from last year. So if you don't want to shoot a new photo, I'm happy to reuse what we've got in stock. And then that day is also quite busy in terms of programming. So we have the economic development team hosting their Ajax Business Network virtual networking event, which is an opportunity for local businesses, not only in Ajax, it is open to anybody in Durham region and beyond, to take part in information share. And there'll actually be a keynote speaker relating to accessibility this year that I'll talk about in a little bit on another item on our agenda. But if anybody's familiar with the initiative known as Access Now, it's an online mapping application that is literally pinpointing how accessible spaces are all over the world. So we have the founder of this application, Mayan Ziv, who's also an accessibility advocate and fashion photographer. She'll be coming out to speak to the importance of physical accessibility within businesses and really engage businesses in taking action to either make themselves more accessible so that they can pinpoint themselves on the Access Now app, or to look for other businesses in the community and support their accessibility. So you're also welcome to participate in that. And I'll be sending out all of the links and registration information to you directly. Later that morning, we have Kaylee and Sepeline are taking part in our STEAM story time in partnership with the library. So Susan will be reading some stories and we'll be there to share some information about accessibility and inclusion with young children. So that's something fun to look forward to. Most of these are all virtual events, or pardon me, they're all virtual events and they're all free, which is the next best part, but most of them do require pre-registration. And then that evening, for those that like trivia, you guys did a fantastic job providing some great trivia questions to include in the family virtual Quiz Whiz trivia nights. So a round of that event will take part to promote accessibility and inclusion. And then on the Thursday, we'll be hosting the Real Ability film screening of Sound of Metal in conversation with Beverly Dooley, who works with the Canadian Hearing Services Organization, formerly the Canadian Hearing Society. She is a resident of the Durham region, and she will be speaking to us about her lived experience as a deaf individual, sort of as a pre-context conversation to set up the film, The Sound of Metal. So after we have her live streamed conversation, participants will be encouraged to log on to the online platform on the Ajax Public Library website called Hoopla, and they will be able to screen Sound of Metal for free. Kind of ties in nicely. Outside of our active events that you can participate in, we will have our Creatability Art Contest that promo is being finalized for, as well as the call for if you know any accessibility all-stars within the community. So all of the links will be live on this website once it's ready to go. And then just a primer about how accessibility isn't just a 1 week celebration within the year. And of course, wanted to acknowledge the committee and your involvement with planning this week. So it links back to information about our committee and what it stands for. And then later down on the page, you'll be able to participate in the live stream, similar to if you were viewing our live meeting tonight. There'll be a link embedded within the page here that you'll be able to come and watch live at 7 o'clock on that Thursday evening. And then if I scroll back up to the top of the page, over to the right-hand side, you'll see that there are a list of key dates there as well. So if you just wanted a quick snapshot of each individual event, then you'd be able to click those links there, and it would give you all of the information to connect back with the calendar or the specific registration information. And then if you have any questions, my contact information is just down in the bottom right-hand corner. So that's where we're at for now. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Grace Smith speaking. I just want to say that as Sarah mentioned, we gave a, well, mostly Sarah, but I put my 2 cents worth in as well, but she gave a presentation to the Age Friendly Committee, and it was well received. And we also reiterated that accessibility is not 1 week, it's year round, and how accessibility has come into COVID, and how more prominent accessibility is. So you know, as I said, we're a small group, but we're mighty. So we've done a great job in Ajax.
And all of this information will be shared directly through Laura to share and disseminate with the age-friendly Ajax steering committees, because I know that they have quite large networks within their community groups as well. So we're looking forward to getting that information out there.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sarah. I just had one question. This is more
Sure.
of what I'm seeing on the website. I wanted to verify that this site is the ability to see it on a mobile device, whether a tablet or a phone. It's visually accessible. So I haven't looked at it on a phone or a mobile device. So I hope that it is. And then
Yes.
second, just the font. So I know that other parts of the site, you're able to adjust the sizing of the font.
Yep, sorry, I'm just pulling it up on my tablet here. It is
Oh,
a
wonderful.
responsive site. So depending on whatever device you are utilizing, it will be responsive to that. You might have to do some
Wonderful.
additional scrolling, but all of the pieces will stay there for you on that particular page. And in terms of the font, we can look to increase the font within the template, but there's also an individual's tool within their device where they'd be able to increase the font size. And I think even on a keyboard, Control+, Control- does that as well. There's not that actual tool embedded within the web page itself, but great feedback that I can take back to look to increase the font size for us.
Wonderful. Okay. Great. Well, yes, wonderful work on the input on creating the site, and lovely picture of yourself.
Oh.
Great. Are there any other questions from the committee on our national accessibility?
Misspeaking again, sorry. What the pictures, the wearing red pictures. So you certainly got my permission, but do you need our permission to use pictures? Like if we don't send any red t-shirt, whatever pictures?
If you don't want to update your photo for this year, I have the photos that I came around and took from last year.
Okay.
So it's completely up to you. I still have all of those in stock that can be shared with our team.
I don't have anything else in red, so that's why I'm
that's
asking.
Sarah.
Hi, Chair. It's Lisa speaking. I just have a question. Good evening, everyone. This is so great. And Julia presented on the other night for council, and she did a fabulous, fabulous job. So I'd like to just say that for the record and commend her. And I had a question for Sarah. So all of the events, is comms getting the breakdown of all of this to make sure that we spread this information online?
Yes, I'm working with Rachel and the corporate communications team. So they'll be updating the imagery. They're working on social media messaging. There'll be a news release as well as an event flyer that we'll be able to push out through all the town's channels.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. That's it for me, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer, and welcome to the meeting. We didn't get to formally welcome you to the meeting. Great. And any additional questions from committee members? Oh, yes, I see Seppaline's hand. Yes, thank you very much first.
Okay. The question for Sarah regarding on the 3rd.
Yes.
Regarding the video of Song Metal.
Yes.
Is it possible to get that seen at a different time? Because we have our first age-friendly meeting that same day between 6 and 8 p.m. And I really don't want to miss this video, and I also don't want to miss the meeting. So is that possible?
Great question. So I am hoping to record the session, the conversation with Beverly Dooley. So we'll have that available after the fact. And we will be providing ASL sign language interpretation for that event as well. So that'll be part of the video, and then we can caption it afterwards. And in terms of the video film screening itself, the great thing about Hoopla is that it is not, it's an on-demand service. So you can go in and search their library similar to how you would a Netflix or an Amazon Prime, and you can access the movie at your leisure. We're just coordinating this to give some sense of collective film watching and encouraging everybody to sign on at the same time. But by all means, you could watch the film beforehand. You could watch it afterwards on the weekend. Totally up to you. You can access it at any time.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Hoopla. That's the only thing.
Yeah, so there'll be full instructions on how you can access the event. It's essentially a login through the Ajax Public Library's website using your Town of Ajax library card.
Excellent, excellent.
And the great thing about that too is even if you're not an Ajax resident, in case anybody is watching from outside of Ajax, most public library institutions do have access to the Hoopla online television and movie portal. So you would also be able to participate in screening of this film.
Excellent.
Great question, Seppaline. Yeah,
Great question.
Thank you.
that's wonderful. Any additional questions? I don't miss anyone on this partial Zoom screen. Great. Okay. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sarah. Our next item on the agenda is 4.2 Regional Accessibility Award nominations.
Yes. So I'm just going to pull our agenda back up here for a moment. So it is that time of year again. We do annually participate in the review of potential nominations for the Region of Durham Accessibility Award. And Janet has provided the deadlines for this year. However, it might be a little bit tricky for us to have a nomination all framed up in time for that particular deadline. So I have given her a heads up that we may need into our September meeting as we're kind of just getting the ball rolling and hoping that we're also going to be hearing about some potential nominees through our Accessibility All-Stars program. So that call out to the community. So she is aware that we will be working towards submitting a nomination, and perhaps we will have more information available to consider at our June meeting in time for some type of recommendation being made towards September at the latest, so that it can be provided in time for the annual forum. And just a point on that, I did have a meeting with my regional counterparts this afternoon, and it's great to hear that Janet is trying to coordinate some type of virtual forum for this year. So we could look forward to being able to get together with our counterparts in all of the other municipal AACs. So stay tuned for more information. That will be towards the latter part of the fall, and I'm sure more information will be shared as soon as it's available. But for now, kind of keep your eyes and ears open. If you can think of anyone within the community that's done something to break down barriers or increase accessibility and inclusion in the community, that's what we'll be looking for our discussions. And I think Seppaline's just raised her hand.
Yes, go ahead, Seppaline.
Sarah, the issue of the STEAM story time in the library, it's virtual, right?
Correct.
Okay, so would they be sending and would we be getting something?
I believe I forwarded Kaylee and yourself the Zoom invitation for the event, but if not, let me know if it didn't come through on your end. It would have been a calendar invite with the Zoom information, and I can resend that to you.
Okay.
And just to clarify for committee members and those watching, that point was for 4.1 under National Accessibility Week, Seppaline?
Well, it's in 4.2 also.
For the Regional Accessibility Award nomination?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, okay. Thank you. Any additional questions on our Regional Accessibility Award nomination?
Madam Chair, I would just encourage any considerations to be forwarded by email, and then maybe we can collectively gather that for future discussion at our meeting.
Wonderful. So we've got to keep our eyes and ears out. And moving on to the next item on the agenda, 4.3, Communication Boards Project.
Yeah, this is a really exciting one, and I may call upon Councillor Bauer to tag team it with me, but we received a great piece of correspondence from a resident regarding communication boards, and I'm not sure when I toggle websites if it shows up on your screen, but hopefully, is everybody seeing an image of multiple icons on a large board within a public park?
Yes, yes.
Okay, So you're looking at an image of a communication board. And this resident sent some correspondence to Councillor Bauer inquiring whether or not this could be something considered for installation in public parks and spaces throughout Ajax. So Councillor Bauer forwarded it to me for some thoughts. And of course, I think it's an awesome idea. And even my counterparts across the region are really on board with this initiative. So just wanted to bring it to the committee for their information and interest that behind the scenes, we are looking into costing out and what the feasibility would be for installation of such signs. A likelihood we wouldn't be able to be looking at install until 2022, just from a budgeting perspective. We want to make sure we have all our ducks in a row, but looking at maybe installing 1 or 3 of these signs in our larger high volume parks like Rotary Park or at the Audley Recreation Center Inclusive Playground or the MCC Park as well, kind of spreading them out, maybe 1 within each ward. And then take a look and see what the community feedback is, do some communications pieces with it, and just a great addition to have to increase inclusivity within our parks and open spaces.
Wonderful.
Ray Smith speaking. Got a question on that. Would it be accessible with, sounds great idea, love it. But would it be accessible with a, maybe with, from the iPhone? You know, like speak, you know, would it speak to me on the iPhone?
That is a
Maybe.
really great question. So the intent of a communication board, from how I understand, is that it's a series of different images and words that individuals can point or direct to foster communication and express their ideas. But you bring up a really interesting thought, Ray, like maybe perhaps there's an opportunity to add a QR code or something to the sign that may be able to provide some alternative text or some context for what the sign is.
Exactly, and I'm thinking of even shop top. You know that you know that just an idea, but maybe that we can explore down the road.
Yeah, it's great feedback. I think Seppaline, I don't know if she still has her hand up or if she's
Yeah,
raised.
I just want, yeah, I still do. Is it a digital board?
This is an aluminum metal type of board. So it's durable, it's for exterior use, and we would be looking to encase it within a wooden frame, similar to what you see here. I think on the screen it's a white vinyl frame, but looking at possibly creating a wood frame around it with 2x4s, installing it at the appropriate height so that it is lower to the ground so that you have greater access to it. And then also making sure that there's that communications piece as well as what is it within the park.
So when you press on one of the icons, what happens?
Pardon me?
If you press on one of these icons, what happens?
It's a flat
Or is it
two-dimensional
just a
board.
pictorial thing?
Yes, it's very similar to an individual's communication board. If you were using, if you've heard of a product called Magnus cards or different
I
tactile.
lost you there a minute. So
Pardon me? Oh, okay. So it's an enlarged version of that. Instead of having an individual having their own device, it can be a little bit more interactive where you could see multiple people using the board and communicating through the pictograms on the board together.
Great. Oh, I see Councillor Bauer's hand up.
Thank you very much, Chair. Lisa here. I just wanted to say thank you to Sarah for taking this on. I don't really need to tag team with her because she covered the whole thing beautifully. But yes, it was from a resident in Ajax, and it's a great idea, and it's great to have the support from staff that it's a doable project. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I am certainly willing to help in the budget process in any way that I can. So thank you.
I think Madam Chair, Catherine has her hand up.
And Catherine, yes, go ahead.
Oh, I think
Oh, you're on mute.
It's the phrase of the past 2 years, right?
Yeah, I'm just concerned about, I'm looking at the dimensions and the sign to me seems very high. Is it possible to make it lower and wider maybe, like so somebody in a wheelchair could reach the top?
Absolutely. So I don't know if we can scroll up here, but there are some size. I think the dimension is about, what did they, oh, it's not included on this.
56 inches. That's like
Go down a bit.
Here's,
over
oh yeah,
5.
sorry, the 50 wide by 56 tall. I think that's including the framing for it as well. And then there are two versions of the sign. So there's one that has 32 pictograms on it and one that has 48. So they're a bit larger on the one that has less. But it's definitely something that we wanted to keep into consideration of the actual height for reach within a seated position so that all of the symbols are accessible for sure.
That's enough. 56
Okay.
inches.
Thank you.
No, these are all great points.
Thank you, Catherine. Do we have any additional questions? I was wondering if what communities are using this. I apologize if that was mentioned already.
It's a great question. I honestly can't speak to that, Madam Chair. This was really the first of this initiative that I'd heard as it came through, being brought forward through the councillor by a resident. So, and even when I reached out to our landscape architect, Andrew, who you're all familiar with, who works on the parks design, it's something that's newer to us. So we're excited to see how it might be able to be implemented in Ajax and then even beyond in our other municipalities within the region.
Wonderful. Great. And with that presentation, it sounds like it's something definitely promoting inclusivity, especially for children in our communities.
Even to have people who might not have seen a communications board raise the question of, oh, what's that? Why is it in our park? And really get that conversation fostered. So
Wonderful.
Yes,
Great.
Chair, it's Lisa here. I was just trying to find the initial resident email to see if she had an example of where they are being used. I just found the email, and she does not say specifically, but she does mention that primarily she one of her children, I believe there's autism. It is used for children with autism, and that's how she first saw it. But she doesn't have a specific example.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Sarah and Councillor Bauer. And
Barb with the hand up, Madam Chair.
oh, there, yes, Barb. You're on mute.
Okay.
Oh, we're good? Okay.
Yep.
Two hands, God, we're working. I'm sort of wondering how much use there would be for something like this. Would it be like outside of a building that has a group of children who have needs that can use it? When we saw it last year, I was sort of like, what do you do with this thing? Because it's not going to be cheap, I'm sure. And I don't know, it just sort of passes me by, sorry.
That's a fair comment to share. In terms of what the intent would be for installation, we would be looking to add this to an existing play space or playground already within the town. So a gathering space with lots of use and where people could interact with the piece as part of the existing recreational and leisure elements of a park or playground. So within the Rotary Park playground, these are, again, just examples that we could look, nothing is finalized yet, or our inclusive play space at the Audley Recreation Center that also has a lot of multi-sensory components to it currently, or even the safe space to play at the McLean Community Center playground as well, would tie in nicely with the existing playground elements within those spaces.
Okay, oh, let's try it.
Wonderful, thank you. And it does have commonalities with the PECS program that a lot of children are using, especially in early childhood programs, especially at Grandview. where it's picture exchange communication system, where they use pictures to communicate, especially if they are not verbal or minimally verbal. So that does certainly sound like a project to build awareness as well to this picture exchange communication system.
Actually, Chair, it's Lisa. The resident does refer to PECS in her email.
Oh, great. Thank you. Wonderful. And moving on to 4.4, Access Now Town Facility Mapping.
Okay, so this is the online mapping application that I was referring to that Maya Enziv, our keynote speaker for the Ajax Business Network event, founded. And I think I included the links in an email that I sent out in preparation for this meeting. But if not, I just wanted to take a moment to pull up the website that shares some additional information. Let's see what you can see here. Usually have to stop share, then start share again. Okay, so the Access Now website is accessnow.com, and it has a lot of information on how the project came about, how you can link to download the application to your personal device, and then how the program is actually structured. So it's based on crowdsourced information, which means it's from the general public. Anybody can participate in this mapping exercise. But when you consider that anybody can participate, in order to have some consistency throughout the information that's being provided, there is some standardized criteria in terms of how we are looking at particular spaces in relation to accessibility. So Access Now has developed a bit of a legend that pinpoints accessibility under 3 different categories. You have a green thumbs up, means that the space is accessible. It represents an accessible location, a place without barriers. Experiences, however, do vary from person to person, but generally with that green thumbs up, they're stating that the space is accessible and that people can get into that space with ease. In the yellow pylon icon, it's sort of somewhere in the middle. It's partially accessible. A yellow pin on the map represents a location that is partially accessible, often have alternative entrances. The main entrance might not be the most accessible entrance, or limited access within a space, such as steps inside, so you can get in the door, but then you're faced with a flight of stairs, or very narrow hallways. Maybe something you'd encounter with a lot of older buildings that haven't undergone renovations or retrofits at this time. So they might have some elements of accessibility, but they're not completely barrier-free. And then the third category for pinpointing a location on Access Now is a red thumbs down, and that is the space is not accessible. So that red pin is also worthy of note on a particular map such as this, because it's going to inform people that the space isn't accessible first and foremost, but also calls attention to encourage change to happen and what could be done to make the space more accessible. Because although you're rating within these 3 particular criteria, there are other flags and items and the opportunity for some comment or description of the space that you can share when you're referring to a particular location. So I thought it might be a good initiative for the committee to undertake, as I took a look at Access Now, and I don't think that there are any of our Town of Ajax facilities on the map, and that over time we might be able, or even as individuals, work towards pinpointing these elements on the Access Now map, because we do want to be good leaders within the community, especially if we are going to be looking for our local businesses to jump on board with pinpointing their accessibility on the application. So I'll stop my screen here. Does anybody have questions about those 3 criteria and how they differentiate between accessible, partially accessible, and not accessible? No? Okay.
Ray Smith speaking.
Sorry, Ray.
It's okay. I don't have any questions on the three areas, but I love this idea as well. It's going to be a great education tool for businesses as well as they grow with accessibility. So I love it.
Thanks, Ray. And the great thing about it is that it's dynamic. So you can have multiple reviews on a space, especially if things change. Like say a business is identified as being partially accessible, but they undergo some type of renovation or retrofit that brings and increases their accessibility, then that descriptor can be updated to reflect such. So it's very dynamic, it's live, it's interactive. And again, it's crowdsourced. So it's people that are within those spaces and have seen it firsthand, basing their experience on their particular situations. So great to see that there are comments from people who visited those spaces, as well as some generalized tagging of different core elements that you would want to see in an accessible space for some consistency. So Madam Chair, I don't know how much time we want to dedicate on this evening, but I thought it might be worthwhile to sort of go through the type of criteria we'd be looking at for particular town spaces to have them added to the Access Now app. And then if we can't get through, I mean, there's a multitude of town facilities once we look at our satellite facilities, our trail systems, all of our parks. But maybe tonight take a look at some of our core facilities and walk through, and then look at establishing a subcommittee group that may want to continue this initiative on and report back to the committee before we finalize pinpointing some of these locations on the map. How's everybody feel about that?
Those are wonderful suggestions. I do believe we should start the process with, those most used facilities in Ajax.
Okay, and again, within context of the pandemic, not very many of them are being right now, but I'm sure we can rely on our previous experiences, as I know this committee has been engaged in lots of community events over the years, be them ones that they are facilitating or participating in as residents. So hopefully we can draw on those personal experiences and provide as much feedback as we can. So if we take a look up on the screen, hopefully you can see a sort of very rudimentary table where I've listed across the top, I think about 4 or 5 different town facilities. We have Town Hall, accessibility, Ajax Community Center, McLean Community Center, Audley Recreation Center, and the Main Branch Library. So with your permission, we'll kind of just start the ball rolling and go through one facility at a time. It's an opportunity for discussion because, of course, again, experiences might vary, but hopefully we'll be able to come down with a consistent rating. So what I might do is actually leave the level of access discussion for the final point. And what we can do is go through some of the key accessibility elements at the particular facility that might help shape what level of accessibility members feel that particular site should achieve. Does that sound okay?
It does, yes.
Okay. So we're going to start with our town hall facility that I'm here in all by my lonesome, and I'm missing all of you in person. So when we think about accessibility in terms of parking, is there accessible parking on site? Yes? I can't see all of you, so I might need some assistance with verbalizations, but.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll keep a check mark there. What about accessible washrooms?
Oh, so we're not rating whether what red, yellow, or green yet.
We will, but we're going to take a look at some of the key elements that we also want to flag within that site. So when you go to the Access Now app and you find a location, it's going to give you right off the top on the map, you'll be able to see if it's the red, the yellow, or the green. And then if you click on that little icon, it's going to give you a checklist of all of the following things that people have tagged as our elements within that facility. And then further down, it will also give you sort of like a review or a user description of the space if somebody has provided such.
Okay, I'm clear on that part. I'm just wondering with the check mark here, what is that going to indicate for us?
So that will, let's see if I can pull it up on here. That would mean, if anybody can see, everybody see on this screen here?
Yeah.
Okay, so it will show you the 3 buttons. So when you're rating a location, you're going to select one of those 3 buttons based on the level of accessibility that we have discussed as a group. And then further below that, sorry, I'm trying to look in the reflection, you'll see that there's different core element buttons such as accessible parking, accessible washroom. So you can select each of those buttons and they will show up as tags for that particular location if that actually does exist there. So when you pull up, say it was a pizza store, and you're going to go pick up your pizza. It might also tell you that, okay, it's accessible. It's accessible because it has an accessible washroom. It has an automated door operator. So it's giving you a little bit more detail behind the level of rating that that particular user has given the space. Does that make sense or provide clarity?
Yes, yes. I think what I'm not clear about is the check mark next to parking.
So that's just for us. So
Yes,
because I'm not doing it live on the application here tonight, we're having a discussion. This chart here is basically going to be the rough draft of what eventually we will go on to the application and input live. So if this were for town hall, I would go to the space where it says accessible parking and I would click accessible parking. And then that's going to light up that button.
Okay, so the check means accessible.
so check will equal the green then, the green.
No, so that's a separate rating. So we can
Oh,
start with that
sorry.
rating.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
So
Yeah.
it's sort of drilling it down in more detail. I
Okay.
thought it might be more beneficial to work backwards and say, okay, if we've got this many elements, this would obviously lead to this particular color. Or if we don't have so many elements, maybe it would lead to this particular color. But if you guys would like to start with the color coding at the top, that's fine too.
Well, I'll open it up to the committee because I don't want to feel like I'm the only one not.
I don't want to confuse it either, so.
Ray Smith speaking. To me, color codes, yeah, it sounded like, when we open up when the pandemic and all that, all this different types of colors. But can it be too, like, good or bad?
No.
Because
So
no, it has to
if
be
we're
3.
looking to have 2, I would recommend that we would color code it as a partial. Because then again, it's not fully accessible, but there are accessible elements.
Okay.
And then you would be able to explain further. Or if it's accessible, but there are still elements of concern, like if it doesn't check every single element on this list, it doesn't mean it's not accessible. You're just providing that additional context. Barb.
Can we do it 1 to 5? Like a washroom. If the washroom is perfect, we'll give it a 5. If the washroom is only
1 to 3.
2, we can do it. Right?
Yep. But you could do it out of 1 to 3 in this case, right? So 3 would mean fully accessible, 2 would mean kind of somewhere in the middle, and 1 would be not really accessible.
That sounds good.
Yeah, that's, you need more than one coding, sort of.
Yes. So why don't we start there? Let's go back to the top, Madam Chair. So
Wonderful, yes.
if we're taking a look at the town hall facility, in terms of all of the criteria that we have discussed, would you say for the most part that most people can access, that most people of all abilities can access this space? Would you
I
say
would
it's
say-
partially accessible, or would you say it's not accessible?
I put a,
Right.
give it a 2 out of the 3.
Accessible.
Pardon?
Oh,
Madam
okay,
Chair, I
one-
might need your help.
yeah, we'll
too.
have to have one at a time. I heard Barb's voice. Barb, I heard your voice.
Yeah, I was thinking like 1, 2, and 3. So if you give it a 1, it's not very good. If you give it a 2 or 3, the 3 would be good. So when you're going down this list, if you're using a washroom, most of them we have in Ajax would take a 3, which is good. And then the alternate entrance would be a 0, and just go down the list, 1 to 3 or 4, whatever you're going to do your coding for, right?
They're doing this.
Exactly, yes. So we're on parking and
Yeah,
so,
I'm looking
yeah.
at,
So we agreed that 1 would be accessible, 2 would be partially accessible, and 3 would be non-accessible. Is that what we agreed on? Or was it the opposite?
Yeah,
I-
you could even list it by color. Green. I forget what the colors were.
So
Green,
Yeah, I
orange, and
was,
red.
Stoplights.
And, oh, Seppaline, I think you had a question?
Oh, so the color, can I see the color again? Is it the color of the stoplight, of the stoplight?
It-
Is it, it's green, orange, and red?
It is the color of the stoplights, yes.
Okay, so
Oh, there we go.
my answer to that is that those colors are very known to everyone, and we have a lot of teaching tools that we have those colors in also. So people know that, you know, red definitely no, no, no. Orange is, you know, you have some sort of coverage, and you know that green is fully whatever it is.
Mhm.
So are you going to put numbers with the colors? Is that what you're going to do?
No, I think the committee wanted to add numbers tonight to help with evaluation. It really comes down to selecting, is this a green? Do we want to go there? Is this a yellow? No, it's kind of partial accessible, but there might be accessible features. Or is this a red? Is this, nope, it's not accessible.
Okay. So,
Well done. There you go.
so Sarah,
Yes,
so is there going to be a legend somewhere? Or is
on
it
the
just
application itself, yes.
okay, excellent.
So very similar to what I'm sorry, it's so small, but I have it on the tablet
Yeah,
here.
I can see,
You'll
yeah.
see in those colors, the little symbols, there's a green thumbs up, there's a yellow pylon, and there's a red thumbs down. Those will show up on the map with the colors, with the symbols, because not everybody can see color on the map as well. So it's important to have those symbolic indicators too.
Next.
Okay, so perhaps we'll forego the individual elements. When we take a look at Ajax Town Hall, do we give it a green light? Do we give it a yellow light? Or do we give it a red light?
Green lights,
Great.
Green.
Green?
Yellow.
Green.
yellow.
Yellow?
Yeah.
Okay, so Ray, you
'Cause
said
that-
yellow. What are some
Yeah.
comments?
There's a reason why,
Okay,
because I feel there's nothing perfect. There's always room for there's always room for improvement. You know, we're trying to do, just case in point, we're trying to do the shop talk and you know, navigation. So it's not fully accessible, but it is almost perfect. Yes, it is. But to me, it's yellow.
okay. Just keep in mind though, that when we are reviewing the criteria, it may not be fully accessible to the extent that you're speaking to, that it doesn't mean that there's not room for improvement, but it's that for the most part, most people could be able to go there and access the space, okay? But I've added that comment there too.
Then I'll give the green just for you
Okay.
today. But okay.
No, I think this is what this discussion is
Yeah.
about, right? And we don't have to finalize what the scores are today. Maybe we put down these scores, and once we fill out a more comprehensive
Yeah.
chart before we plug things in, we review it again, right? Okay, so if we're looking at red light, yellow light, green light for the Ajax Community Center. And again, if it helps you, this is what these extra criteria are for. Is there accessible parking? Is there an accessible washroom? Are there more than one entrance? Is the main entrance accessible? Is there an automated door operator? Is there braille? Is there elevator access if required? Is there a gender neutral or universal washroom? Is any of the material provided in large print? Can you only access it outdoors? Is it a quiet space, a loud space? Are there ramps? Is it scent free? Is it service animal friendly? Is there any assistive listening systems in place or ASL? Is it spacious? So again, it's not a yes or no that makes these spaces accessible or not, but a way that we can convey additional information about how accessible the space is.
So this is an orange.
Is that Catherine or Barb's hand? Catherine?
With the community center, the older part of the building needs improvement, but the new part is accessible, so can we divide it?
No, because it's done by address. So it would be one facility, but good question. So when you say needs improvement for either town hall or the Ajax Community Center, what are some things that you would want individuals who've never seen the space to know ahead of time in terms of accessibility?
If you go into the main entrance, there's not a washroom that's accessible. you have to go to the ice rink.
Okay. See, that's an important element that we would want to include in the comments. Any other comments?
I haven't been there in so long, I can't remember.
No thoughts, feedback?
It's Kaylee speaking.
Kaylee.
I find that the bathroom is very difficult to use as a parent with a disability. Last time I checked, the change table is really high and it's not accessible for people to reach up if they have problems with upper body strength. And I find it a little bit, the bathroom, the older part, or the bathroom's a little crammed. It's also very loud and echoey in there.
Okay. That was up here.
Some very good points, Kaylee.
Okay.
Can we get our people to, well, sometime in the next week or so, somebody print this out and then we can all share how we put it together and then we'll see what worked and didn't work on the chart.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because we could be here all night doing this.
Well, and that's not the intent. The intent is to sort of introduce you to the process itself. See if
Yeah.
there's interest in pinpointing any accessible locations on the map. So I would like, even if collectively we could look to maybe even accomplish town hall this evening and sort of identify as a group so that everybody can walk away understanding the process. And I think that's an excellent suggestion, Barb. For those interested, we can send out the chart and anyone who wants to share their feedback can add that into the chart, submit them back. I will collect them and compile them, and then we can bring them back to the group.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Great. I see Cephaline's hand up.
Yeah, what I wanted to know was the Braille. Where is the Braille? I haven't seen Braille written anywhere around those areas.
No, and again, so those were just suggested prompts that, oh, if those elements happen to be at this particular location, we should acknowledge that. So when we would be putting our pin on the map, if you will, those were suggested elements that they had created mini tags for so that they would automatically pop up. So when you see that green light or that yellow light or that red light, it may also give you that information that there is an elevator on site or there are automated door operators, just to provide the user with additional information.
The legend will give you. Okay, great.
Right, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there has to be Braille or that there might be Braille. It's not an indicator of the level of accessibility in terms of the color coding pinpoints. It's just additional information in detail about the space. What we're really trying to tackle is the space accessible, partially accessible, or not accessible? And then that, based on the individual's decision to visit that location, can select that pin and see the additional information that we would be providing either by the tags that are suggested or additional information in a comments box, such as some of the suggestions and feedback that you have shared.
Good.
Great.
I'm sorry if I'm not being clear this evening.
No, that's good. Yeah, that's very clear. Thank you.
Oh,
Okay.
you are very clear. It's just a lot to think about, I think, at once.
It's true, very true. And especially within spaces we haven't really actually been in very recently, right? So when we're thinking about town hall, aside from some of the things that are prompted on the screen here, what are some of the elements that you feel make the space accessible?
Now,
Is that what we want
Arachna
to
speaking. Oh, go on, Stephanie.
Sorry, Cepeline, you had another question?
No,
Can't
I just
hear.
have to take my hands down.
Oh, okay. So go ahead, Ray.
Okay, one of the concerns, accessibility concerns I have, if I don't, when I take Uber to the town hall, or maybe someone else is not familiar, most of the time, 90% of the time, they have difficulty finding the doors from the parking lot to the town hall. I know they drop me off in the wrong place sometimes, but which is okay, but not okay, okay for me. So maybe the signage to get to the town hall from the parking lot area.
Okay. That's a good point. And that would be an excellent comment to put in that particular space. So regardless of whether or not we're giving the space red light, green light, yellow light, we can put those additional comments in, because even if you say it's a green light or it's a red light, you still want to highlight that additional information that you really can't tell just by knowing if it's a red, yellow, or green light. Good point. What about the fact that we have the beacon navigation system?
Mhm.
That might be something that a user might want to know before visiting the space, right?
Very good.
We're scent free.
Scent free.
Scent free,
Catherine
we
said-
don't actually have a facility scent free policy at this time. So I would be hazardous of putting that as like an official tag within the space. Whereas I know some of our counterparts, like the region of Durham, has a formalized scent free policy within their public.
Oh, we did.
I don't believe it's enforced or publicized within the spaces itself. I think it's more of an internal policy, but that's something I can certainly look more into and report back to the committee.
I remember at the town hall, the washroom, I believe it was myself and Barb that visited one of the washrooms, the accessible washrooms near the actual where the council meetings are held.
Mhm.
And for her in her scooter, it was difficult for her to actually access the soap.
Yeah.
If you recall, Barb?
Not really, it's been a year.
Well, of course, yes. Yes, Heather?
I would like to also comment on the washrooms. My counterpart Barb, we were over at, I believe it's, oh my goodness, Westney. Is that, it's not Oddly, but it's the other one. We were there and we had to use the washroom, and it was not accessible to us because the inside was accessible, but the outside had no ramp. And so we were not able to use that out by the baseball diamonds where they have the huts kind of thing. And we were not able to use that. It was not accessible at all.
So you're speaking to the Audley Recreation Center Sports Club?
No, I think it's McLean. She's.
I think it's
Is that
McLean that I'm
Westney?
referring to, Westney
At
North.
Westney and McGill, or
Yeah,
Okay,
it was
that is
not
very
good,
good
and we had to go run in and find the washrooms in the building.
That's good feedback, but I think we should stick to one facility at a time,
Mhm.
just so we're not jumping all over the place.
Okay, thank you.
But good feedback. That's the kind of feedback we're looking for.
Okay, there is none back door at the town hall.
Right?
Chair, it's Lisa. Just thinking of town hall, the counter space, when residents come to see staff, do we have all levels of counter space there? I think we do, right? So lower level for people who are in wheelchairs?
I believe the lower level is only at that round reception desk. Am I correct?
Oh,
There
I
is
think
a
where your
middle,
legislative
right?
services are a little higher.
The customer service hub, where anybody from that side of the departments, be it legislative services or finance, is accessible from a staff perspective from behind to serve anybody at the lowered portion of the counter for any of the services that those departments provide. And then on the opposite side, in the planning and development department, there is a lowered counter portion as well. Same within the office of the CAO and mayor's office. When you come in, the first desk to your left has a lowered portion, as well as up in the HR office on the second floor. Once you get off the elevator, that is at a lowered height, their particular desk.
Perfect.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. And Barb, you have a question?
Comment. I don't want to have breakfast here. So can we put a committee together and travel around to these different buildings that we have and come up with a final plan? Because tonight we're not going to get all of this done, but we're doing the basics for it as to what we're going to need and what we're looking for. And we can have people on our committee like go out in 2s and 3s and just mark it on a chart. And then a couple of weeks later, another group goes out and marks it like the same building, but they might come up with something different. And I think we need to go in depth on this and not just sort of cover it quickly, because these buildings are very, some of them are really outdated, and we need to really look into this if we're going to be spending the amount of time that it's going to take to do a really good chart for people.
Through the chair, I do appreciate the committee's patience tonight, but I do need to stress that this exercise is not intended to be a fulsome facility audit. We can also not support at this time that committee members are out visiting our particular facilities as they're currently closed to the public, and we are still within the pandemic situation. This particular exercise is supposed to be that higher level snapshot of if you were planning to go to one of these facilities and you had never been there before, based on, and again, the committee members here are a very small portion of the people that access the space of various abilities. There could be other people that are pinpointing the same locations on the map, sharing their individual experiences. It was my intent tonight to just bring forward a potential opportunity for collaboration with the group to look at how we might be able to identify collectively the level of general accessibility at some of our highly utilized town facilities. The intent is to continue this exercise with eventually all of our town facilities at a further point in time, but it is not the expectation that we do so tonight. I do not want to keep anyone here past is necessary, but did want to go through the exercise so that people were familiar with what we were looking for. But again, it is not to go out and measure doorways. It is not, it is a general experiential visit to where you're based on your own personal experiences of accessing these spaces. The app in itself is not to be used as a specific technical tool. It's a general user experience similar to if you were reading a Yelp review or a Google review for a particular business or hotel that you were looking to visit as well. It's based on personal experience. It's not intended to be technical or highly detailed, but provide an additional level of accessibility knowledge that doesn't currently exist for people who might want to access that particular site. I defer to you, Madam Chair, whether or not you'd like us to continue, or I'm happy to take volunteers from the committee who would appreciate to continue the conversation offline.
I see a question from Seppaline and one from Catherine, but if I could suggest that we set up a subcommittee for those who are available to kind of do an overview and then present it at our next meeting, the input from those subcommittee members, so that it is much easier to kind of see a broad outline of what we've identified from that subcommittee.
Right. Go for it.
Seppaline, I'll take your question now.
I just add what Sarah said, that we are in a lockdown situation and we will be in that situation partially or fully until the end of 2021. So we cannot do any of those kind of physical things. So anything that we have to do will have to be something that is, presently there, and you have to think about it. But physically, no one can go out and visit any place on their own if they wanted to, or through the committee.
That's correct.
So that's so I will be happy to be on the committee just to brainstorm the possibility of that chart that Sarah presented.
Exactly. And I do support that we do this distanced over Zoom as opposed to coming together at this point in time. And Catherine, you had a question?
I just want to say that the actual app, it's impressed me so much. It's something that has been needed for a long time. And the fact that individuals can put their own opinion on it, it makes it even better.
And I would encourage any of the committee members who are interested in learning more about the interactivity of the app and the intent behind it to please participate in the June 2nd business networking event. It is open. It's not just for business owners. You as members of the committee are more than welcome to take part and hear Mayan's presentation and have the opportunity to ask any additional questions directly to the founder of the project. So I'll be happy to share registration information for you once that's available.
Okay, because you went through that really fast and I thought, can you give us that information? Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
The
Thank you.
date now?
Pardon me?
Do you have a date now to do that? No?
The date for the subcommittee or the presentation?
Presentation.
So the starting of the thing.
Well, first I would need to solicit feedback, and then based on those involved, it would be dependent on their availability. So perhaps, Madam Chair, if we could encourage members who are interested in continuing with this project to shoot me a quick email, and then I'll get a group email together and we'll book a Zoom meeting and take it from there.
Okay, 1, 2.
Oh, we have volunteers already?
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't see anybody on the screen.
Okay, it looks like I see Barb's hand up. Barb, you had volunteered? Yes, yes. Seppaline, I still see your hand up. I'm wondering, are you?
Well, I volunteer, but I'll take my hands down.
Okay, I see Heather's hand up.
Thank you.
And I would also like to sit on that and on that committee, and I see Catherine's hand up. Did I miss anyone?
No, not me.
Okay, great.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
You had some great feedback tonight.
Thank you for leading us in that discussion. And that looks like a very detailed piece of work. And I think we all look forward to working on that. And moving on in our agenda to item 5, correspondence. So Sarah had circulated the letter and response from Ashley S., a resident who wrote to the Durham Region Transit on May 5th, 2021. And do we have, that was presented for, that it was circulated to members separate from the agenda package. So while DRT is a regional service, perhaps the committee can keep Ashley's concerns in mind during future discussions the AAC has with DRT. So at this time, we're not discussing it, but we are looking for someone to move that the item of correspondence from Ashley S. regarding the DRT be received for information.
Madam Chair, Sarah speaking. Just wanted to interject in case anybody hadn't checked their email today. There was follow-up correspondence from the initial letter circulated to the committee from Durham Region Transit, as well as a subsequent response from Ashley back to Durham Region Transit. So if the committee did wish to speak to the matter at all, again, you're correct, recognizing that transit is a regional operational service, there is still a component of accessibility, and being that the resident requested the letter come before the committee, any response back to the resident could be that the committee commits to keeping these concerns in mind during our annual discussions with DRT, or if there's anything further that the committee wanted to discuss, now is that opportunity.
Any comments or questions of clarification?
Ray Smith speaking.
Yes.
Yeah, I read the letter and she's got some legitimate concerns. I move that, I hope I'm talking right, I move that we receive the letter and keep her thoughts in our minds when we continue with accessibility for DRT.
Thank you, Ray. And could I have a seconder for accepting this letter as information? I'll ask you to say aye if you are, or your hand. I see Heather, I saw Heather's first, and then I saw.
I think Barb raised her hand ahead of me.
Oh, okay. So Barb Dowds will be seconded by Barb Dowds. So that item of correspondence from Ashley S. regarding the DRT is received for information.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I will make a point to follow up directly with the resident to let her know that it was shared with the committee and a copy of the committee's motion this evening.
Wonderful. Thank you. And item 6, an update from council. So I welcome Councillor Bauer to share an update.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, you know, as I said earlier, the presentation for national accessibility, or the update for the committee on Monday night that Julia made was fantastic. It's so great to see how active the committee is, for sure. And I just wanted to mention that back in February, Council approved some anti-racism and diversity training courses for Council as a whole. And it's to take, it started, we just had, and why I mention is we just had our very first session, which was on unconscious bias training. Very interesting. And so we're having 5 sessions all together. The next one in June will be anti-Black racism training. And then in September will be anti-racism training. In November of 2021 will be gender inclusivity training. And finally, in January of 2022 will be accessibility training, which is defined as training on accessibility and the importance to provide equal access and equal opportunity to people with disabilities and accessibility needs. So I thought that was important to share with the committee, that we are constantly learning, growing, progressing, and it was top of mind as we just completed our very first session. So I just wanted to share that with the group. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bauer. It's wonderful to hear the awareness of the council members. And, we look forward to your initiatives as you move forward.
Thank you. We're trying our best.
And our next item on the agenda is item 7, the external committee updates. And I will ask Ray if he has a committee update for the age-friendly Ajax steering committee.
I don't really have any particular updates. No, I heard, I'm a little embarrassed because when we had a age-friendly committee meeting, I'm on the selection committee or the screening committee for the age-friendly review panel. And there was no decision made as of last week. But I've heard Cephaline said, and congratulations, Cephaline, that you're going to be having an age-friendly meeting next week. So I guess I'm assuming that the panel has been selected. And can you confirm that? I would appreciate it. But that's the exciting part of the age-friendly report that if Cephaline can confirm, or Sarah, then that's good news.
Through the chair, Sarah speaking, I would have to defer to Cephaline as this is Laura's.
Yeah, I
I'm
was
not.
a little surprised.
But
Yes,
great to hear that Cephaline's on the committee
Oh,
representing.
yes.
Yeah. So I am on the committee as part of the review personnel representing accessibility. And the first meeting for this review panel committee is June the 3rd. It will be every first Thursday of the month for every 2 months. So we have a schedule right now until December. And we have a term of reference, and we do have that meeting on next Thursday, on the 3rd. So that's our first meeting. So from that meeting, I'll be able to give you more updates. But the selection committee is completed, and we are set up to have our meetings.
Great.
Good. Congratulations again, Cephaline, and that's fantastic. That's my report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. And yes, congratulations, Cephaline. And yes, we look forward to hearing about your involvement in the committee as well. And on to the Regional Accessibility Advisory Committee. Currently, our next meeting is actually scheduled for next week, so I do not have an update at this time. And I will have an update at our June meeting, however. And item number 8, other business. So there are upcoming events of interest. There are a few reminders listed on the agenda for engagement opportunities. Sarah can speak to them if there are any questions. We have the City of Ottawa Accessibility Day on May 27th, 2021, and Enable Ottawa Virtual Conference Forum, June 1st to 3rd, 2021.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So my counterpart in the City of Ottawa at their accessibility team shared some information on what they're doing for National Accessibility Week. And these two initiatives are part of what they have planned. So they wanted to share that with the Ontario Network of Accessibility Professionals across the province. They are both free to attend. They're virtual events. So strongly encourage if you have the opportunity to take part in one or both. They're usually very informative coming out of the capital city in terms of the information and quality of speakers that participate in these events. So wanted to share it with the committee as well, in case there is interest for participation.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And is there any other business to share from any other committee members? Heather?
Hi there. My counterpart, Julia Stevens, and I took it upon ourselves to do the trail up at the lake. Now, I went by myself, and lots of stuff going on up there. And they're in the process of building the, I guess you would say it's not mobile, but it's like a steel walkway. And they're doing it in the middle of the pond. That was the one thing I noticed. And then when I went up to Rotary, I saw that there's no more going down into the gully. It's all done by this steel walkway, which will be totally accessible. So I just wanted to bring that to the committee's attention. I thought it was coming along great. I didn't see any signs of anything inappropriate. I'm happy that it's moving along the way it is, and hopefully we can use it soon. Maybe not so soon, but soon. They're not quite there yet, but we're getting there.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that with us. Any other updates from other committee members? Well, with that, there being no other business, that concludes our meeting. So our next meeting is
Wow.
scheduled for Wednesday, June 16th, 2021, and will be an electronic meeting. And so at this time, I'll ask, can I have a motion to adjourn? I saw Heather's hand first, and could I have a seconder? I'm sorry, I'm flipping through. I see Councillor Bauer's hand. And all in favor, aye, or your hand up?
Aye.
Great. Thank you, everyone. And that concludes our meeting.